Hello, my name is Adam Michael Anthony Simpson, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Adam M.A. Simpson. Wow, it's been a minute. I have so much to catch up with you on, but that's not for this episode. Stay tuned for that one coming soon. In today's episode, I'll be interviewing a longtime friend of mine, Dr. Jeremy Feaster. I met Jeremy a long time ago at Stanford in my early years as a PhD candidate, where he got his PhD in chemical engineering in 2018. Jeremy is now a scientist at the Lawrence Livermore Lab, leading his own lab as a PI, principal investigator, where he researches, I'm going to read this from the web page, where he focuses on utilizing advanced manufacturing for designing and testing electrochemical reactors and catalysts for CO2 conversion and energy applications. What's more is Jeremy is the founder of his own nonprofit called the Feaster Foundation, and directly from their website, the Feaster Foundation is a nonprofit that has a mission to support Black and underrepresented minority students along their paths to success and to inspire as many people to serve their communities in whatever way they can. You can check out the Feaster Foundation website in the description box below. Without further ado, please enjoy the episode featuring Dr. Jeremy Feaster in today's episode. All right, welcome Dr. Jeremy Feaster of the Feaster Foundation.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, please introduce yourself to the channel.
Yeah, so my name is Jeremy T. Feaster. I am originally born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina. And yeah, and excited to be here. I was able to overlap with Adam. Adam, it has been great to be able to overlap with you at Stanford.
Yes.
And everything else. And now I'm currently a PI and a staff scientist at Lawrence Livermore National Lab, as well as running the Feaster Foundation, 501c3 nonprofit organization focused on helping and serving Black and Brown students of color. So
great. And please tell us your story. How did you become interested in chemical engineering and material science? Tell us of your journey through high school and ending where you are now, or high school and undergrad, and ending where you are now as a research scientist and PI at the Lawrence Livermore National Lab.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to know, please explain what Lawrence Livermore National Lab is when in that explanation, because people may not know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my story kind of goes back to Charlotte, to North Carolina. And so, I think growing up, I was curious, but I think one of the things that really kind of sticks with me is growing up, I kind of overcome a lot of adversity, but specifically I remember I must have been about 5 or 6, and my parents kind of told me at a pretty early age, just to, hey, you're going to have to figure out a way to go to college. This is just what it is, And so I remember growing up, and I want to say probably up until the 8th grade, 9th grade, I thought I was going to be like a basketball player. I had a lot of tall family members. A lot of the guys in my family are pretty tall. They all play ball. So I was thinking, okay, that's nice. I'm going to, here's the plan. I'm going to go to the NBA. I'm going to, use the scholarship there. And so I kind of hit my first growth spurt, got to about 5'7". And then I was like, all right, second growth spurt's coming. I'm going to be 6'3", get a scholarship. I'm still waiting on the second growth spurt. It's coming. I'm just a late But basically from that point, I kind of actually really started getting into science. But I think for me, one of the things that sticks out the most as well is that I look at, it's really my perspective towards science and community service and helping others, is that, even from my very, very, very first experience, just learning, science, learning about chemistry specifically, I've kind of always viewed it from this lens of not so much as, this is really cool with chemicals and synthesis and everything else, but really this is a really cool way to be able to come up with solutions to maybe try to solve some problems and help some people. And so I had an amazing 10th grade chemistry teacher, Mrs. McLean. She really pushed me, to really strive past what I was comfortable with. And as a result, it really kind of allowed me to see how much I could learn. But then what really put me on this path was, again, I mentioned I got to find a way to pay for college.
Exactly.
Mom and dad ain't got it. So here's what I got to do. So I was, that 10th grade, summer after the 10th grade, I was, looking for jobs, anything to come. Like, how can I start raising money? How can I start, whatever. And I ended up actually applying as a high schooler, just applying to a job at the local university at UNC Charlotte. And, I'm a 15, 16-year-old kid. And the job was basically cleaning dishes. So I was literally in a chemistry lab, cleaning beakers, cleaning a bunch of dishware, 6 hours a day. I'm hovering over a base solution, everything else. And, and I loved it. I thought it was amazing because I was like, I just learned all this chemistry. I'm kind of seeing people that actually are going and doing it.
Representation.
And I'm just in the lab, just, cleaning dishes, like looking over, seeing what reactions they're doing, trying to see what's going on. And so I did that for about 2 weeks and, for 2 weeks into that summer. And then I started, getting an opportunity to start reading some papers. Obviously, some of the grad students would leave papers out. And I was like, I'll just flip through it, kind of try to see what I didn't understand half of it, there's a whole lot of jargon. But towards when I think I had about 4 weeks left, I kind of had read enough papers and I approached the professor. I was like, hey, I kind of have an idea. They were doing a lot of work with nanoparticles and nanoparticle synthesis, and specifically thinking of ways to do it for for photoexcitation. So basically, if you shine light on these nanoparticles, they would start doing reactions, start producing. And so I had this idea, and I was like, hey, just kind of want to try it, give me a shot. And this professor, Professor Schmedeke, in the Department of Chemistry, he was like, go for it. You're a 16-year-old kid. I have nothing to lose. Just, of course, go for it. And so I think that really, those 4 weeks really shifted and shaped my perspective in terms of how I wanted to approach science, how I, just even what I was interested in doing. In those 4 weeks, I actually ended up making a device that basically purified water. Using some of those nanoparticles. And what happens is, basically nanoparticles were kind of embedded inside of like this water bottle, basically. Yeah. You shine light on it. UV light basically excites the nanoparticles to produce hydroxide radicals. Yeah. The radicals tear apart the pathogens and then you filter it out.
Exactly.
And it, just seeing what the ability to use intelligence, to use creativity, and to use compassion, all of those things combined to really be able to further a project and to see if you can make an impact. Exactly. That just completely shifted my entire perspective on science, on helping others, everything. And so from that, I continued on my grind, to find a way to make it work. I was very, very blessed to be able to get a lot of great offers. Actually, was able to get a full ride to Georgia Tech to major in chemical engineering. I got. Yeah, and it really showed me just, I was pretty successful in terms of getting a lot of scholarship offers. I think when it's all kind of said and done, I had about $1.4 million in scholarship offers. Wow. So, and of course, not taking all that money. I was just like, hey, I just need the money to go to Georgia Tech.
Exactly,
and, give the money to everybody else to be able to go to this. But I think that also showed me just how powerful, the motivation of wanting to help others and to really lifting as you climb. That's kind of maybe the inception of the idea for the nonprofit. And so, but yeah, basically, went to Georgia Tech, had a great time, loved Atlanta. I graduated towards the end of 2011, so I actually graduated early from Georgia Tech and had some money left over on my scholarship. I, at the time, of course, I got into college. I'm thinking, all right, let me get my bachelor's, let me graduate. I did some great work to get undergrad paid for. I don't have enough money to go to grad school. That's just not gonna happen. I was like, I'm good. Yeah. And one of the things that, a couple of professors at Georgia Tech that, they taught me, and they were kind of like, oh, you're flying through the coursework, like this is really great, but have you thought about grad school? Have you thought about to apply at least? And I was like, and I was pretty transparent with them. I was just like, hey, I ain't got it. That just seems really expensive. I can't really afford it. I remember one of the professors looked at me and was like, they'll pay you to get your PhD.
Exactly.
And I was like, let me get back to you.
Exactly. I didn't know.
I had no idea. Because I had sat there and thought that, it was just like medical school or law school, like you gotta pay super high prices in order to be able to go. And I was like, there's just no way to afford it. And, from that point, I was like, okay, if you're going to pay, absolutely, let's go. Let's do it. And so, applied for a few programs, applied for a few fellowships, and, was fortunate to be able to receive several fellowships to be able to cover, going to get my PhD. And I really, really, really loved Stanford. When I visited, I felt like that was, above all, that was kind of a support network, that was a support group that I could see myself being surrounded by, and kind of at least, motivating me and helping me strive towards being able to achieve getting the degree. Mm-hmm. And so, so again, I'm like, I'm kind of thinking, all right, I guess I'm going to grad school. I guess I kind of, have fellowships. But then, it's the 2012, and I'm like, I have extra money in my scholarship. I already graduated. What am I going to do with that? So I kind of just had this idea of like, I really want to, I want to do something to help others. It's not just me being able to be successful, but I want to be able to do something to be able to pay it forward now, to be able to do something that's going to impact any student, the next generation of scientists and scholars, especially Black and brown scientists, scholars and researchers. And so I remember I approached the director of the scholarship program, and I'm a 21-year-old, kid really, and I have an idea, and I'm like, hey, just give me something, and I just have this idea, I want to start a nonprofit, I just need some money to start. And I remember from all the conversations, at some point he asked me, how much money do you need? And I said, oh, well, about $4,000. And looking back, I'm like, why did I not add some zeros to that number?
Exactly.
Why didn't I say 40? Why didn't I say 400? I was like, no, 4,000, because I was just like, oh no, just whatever you can give me. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they basically gave me $4,000 out of my scholarship and said, go for it.
Wow.
And from there, of course, I had no idea what I was doing. Zero idea what I was doing. I think my first purchase was buying How to Start a Nonprofit for Dummies. With the book, and I just, was like, I had no idea, so I'm literally just like, step one, look up your, I was like, okay. So, but I think really what that did is that kind of set the stage for, pretty much since 2012, how I characterize my journey with science, how I characterize the research that I do, is that I look at it really as, kind of science and service as kind of being two sides of the same coin. And so the way I kind of think of it is that, service really begets success, that to be able to view your science in a way that's going to be able to help others, and really in a way that's going to be able to address societal problems is a motivator, and that connects with the overall mission of not only doing great work and doing excellent research, but then also being able to make excellent researchers, being able to partner and to guide and to support any student, any intern, any, mentee that comes underneath your wing, because that's the most important thing that you produce in science to me. It's not the research, it's not the devices, it's not the mentorship. It's the people. It's the people and the researchers that you're able to pour into, that you're able to support. And so pretty much from there, did my PhD at Stanford with Tom Jaramillo. Had a great experience with him as my PI. I'm really, really grateful and really, really blessed that he was my PI to kind of be able to support me. But really starting to really tackle the problem of CO2 reduction. What do we do with all the CO2 that we're producing in greenhouse gas, and especially the impact that it has on climate change? And so, I spent 5 years, researching and building techniques, building methods to study it, building methods to understand it. And right as I was graduating, kind of looking for opportunities, not really sure if I wanted to go to industry. But, I got approached by Sarah Baker at Lawrence Livermore National Lab, who suggested, hey, I just got a project, we got funding, we don't have a lab. do you want to join and just go? I will
Yes.
give you more or less a blank check to build a lab to kind of help guide the direction of this research, and for all intents and purposes, to learn how to be a PI.
Yeah.
What it means to lead research and to develop a vision and to build a culture. And that really, really appealed to me. And I was like, all right, this could go really, really bad, but I'm gonna take my shot. I'm gonna roll my dice. And it worked out amazingly. And pretty much, since I started at Lawrence Livermore National Lab, which in a lot of ways is kind of like an academic institution.
Yeah.
It's very similar to a lot of universities in terms of the ability to do research and focus on fundamental research. One of the other advantages with national labs is that there's also an emphasis on applied research, which also kind of spoke to me. I did a lot of fundamental research in grad school. I wanted to do something that was going to be a bit more applied, a bit more, how do we get this to a point where industry and, it's commercialized, where we can actually start seeing the research kind of start showing up on shelves. And pretty much since 2018, I started as a postdoc there, and I was converted to staff about 2.5 years in.
Congrats!
Yeah, appreciate it. So now I'm finishing up my first year as staff, and stepping into that role of being a PI and guiding research and being able to kind of build some really, really great research teams and work on some really cool research in general, some really cool science problems. Awesome.
And so, can you tell us about the Feaster Foundation? What is the mission of, well, you kind of already spoke about this, but can you tell us any piece of information pertaining to your outreach that you'd like to share that you didn't get to cover in your, explanation about yourself and, where you're coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that, I love to share about just my experience with the foundation, I have such an amazing team. Jeffrey Twum has been pretty much there since day one. He's the VP scholarships. Being able to have a great VP of mentorship in my little brother, Jalen, but really being able to also build other team members, being able to work with Grant Wilson, who's managing kind of our websites, across the board, to be able to build a really, really driven team that is able to really go after a lot of different aspects and really be able to expand the research that be able to really expand the impact that we're able to do in the nonprofit sector. And I think one of the things that, I definitely think about sometimes, especially because we're coming close on 10 years now operating.
Yeah.
And, we've been blessed to be able to give out over $10,000 in scholarships. We've been able to help students start their own nonprofit organizations and make impacts across the world. From sub-Saharan Africa to even to their local communities, and then of course being able to mentor hundreds of students to be able to help guide them, whether it's guiding them to navigate the college application process or being able to kind of turn their passion into action, which is kind of a workshop series that we kind of put together to help guide students to be able to say, you're passionate about this area. How do you turn that into something that's going to be viable? And how do you start to see the fruits of your effort?
Your labor, yeah.
I think one of the things that, I think back on is that when I was starting the nonprofit, I remember asking for a lot of advice. And I remember asking a lot of people, is this the right time? I'm 21, I'm just about to start grad school. I don't know if this is the right time, but why not? What do you think? And I remember having some mentors say, this is a great idea. Maybe not right now. Maybe you should wait, get your degree, get the letters,
start.
Then, be successful in your career and then come back at 40 and start it, come back at 50 and start. And I remember really sitting with that and reflecting on it, and then eventually deciding that, I appreciated their advice. This taught me a lot about how to take advice on getting advice. Because I really valued them as mentors. I really valued, their counsel. And I communicated that to them. And I also said, hey, I really feel like this is just what I'm supposed to do. I hear it, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to go for it because I think this is really where I'm called to go. And I think the value in that was that it taught me something very, very important, which was that, at no point should you ever discount your experience.
Okay.
Your value, your experience, that's something that's going to have so much value to so many other people, that you have no idea the impact of your story on anybody else. You have no idea the struggles that somebody else will be going through, and just hearing your story, just hearing where you are right now, seeing how far you've been able to make it, and where you're continuing to go to. We're all still climbing towards our goals. We're not satisfied with where we are now. We're going to still be motivated to be able to achieve things. And that's kind of where the whole concept of lift as you climb. It's taken really from a quote from Angela Davis, but and we really that's our mission is to amplify a culture of lift as you climb in our community, because that's something that we wanted to showcase. We felt like even when we started, we had a whole lot of Black and brown students that were doing community service, that were mentoring, that were teaching and tutoring, and weren't getting recognized for it. And it started off just from raising the money to do a scholarship for Black and brown students that were lifting as they climb, that were giving back to the community. And that was just the stipulation was, if you're giving back to the community, if you're helping others, we want to help you. And then it's kind of blossomed into an entire program. It's blossomed into so many different things. Even just last year, being able to partner with the Justice for Breonna Taylor movement, to be able to give out scholarships last year for Black, healthcare students in the healthcare industry that were on the front lines during, in the COVID pandemic last year. Really when we're all in shelter in place and work from home and everything else, but they were the ones showing up, being able to serve others as students, as Black students, especially given all of the unrest and given all of the injustice that we've had to face for so long. We wanted to showcase that, and we were to highlight so many stories from around the country of doing such amazing work. And that's really been a blessing to be able to have a vehicle in the Feaster Foundation to be able to say, hey, we're going to show up and we're going to support and do the things that we know that we need to do. In addition to all of the work that we're doing to improve diversity and inclusion, particularly in our own careers and our own institutions. And so for me, it completely weds the two together. It weds the ability to strive and to do what's right, to strive for empathy and to strive for justice. At the same time, as well as being able to strive for making a positive impact through your technical contributions in the scientific community.
That's lovely. I really appreciate that you're looking to support people who have been helping others, the whole time. It's part of I'm a part of the Stanford School of Engineering Graduate Dean's Advisory Council. And that's part of, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion subcommittee, and that's part of what we're trying to do is, recognize people for the work that they've done.
Yeah.
And not only recognize them to support them in a way that also contributes to their actual work as grad students, so their research. Because we all know that, to get faculty buy-in, you need to show them the money. So,
that's a huge part of it.
Exactly. So that's we're trying to get faculty buy-in. That's the major thing. Yeah. And the way to do that is to support with money in recognition for students' diversity, equity, and inclusion work.
I think I love that because I think that's critical. Is a lot of, for me, especially seeing what's happened over the last 18 months or so, and sometimes you see a lot of performative actions, you see a lot of words, you see a lot of we're going to change the language and policy. It's like, sure, that's important, but at the same time, what we need to be doing is finding opportunities to increase, beyond just putting Black and brown bodies in these spaces, but to actually be able to support them. It's not just about recruitment, but it's about retention. It's about advancement. It's about showcasing the talent that you have. I think one of the things that is really exciting for me that I've been able to start doing is building and working with others to build this pipeline of HBCUs and minority serving institutions size to national labs, specifically to Lawrence Livermore, because one of the things that I kind of have a little bit of a dream of is just see Black and brown scientists do excellent research and be showcased for that research.
Exactly.
Not just to bring them in and say, oh, look, we have, a diverse community doing the research, but to be able to say, here's the contributions that they're making. Because we are there's so much talent that gets untapped, or that gets, oh, well, they're just here because we needed, the numbers, we needed to look good. I think one of the things that, I've been able and been super excited to continue to build at Livermore and start to build now as a PI is the ability to bring in Black and Brown students and to be able to do some phenomenal research together. And I can think of several students that I've had the pleasure with working with since pretty much 2019, 2020, and be able to really start to further kind of the vision that I have for the research that we've been able to start doing. Specifically, what we do now, or what my focus with my projects are focused on, is how do we do and to create the next generation of chemical reactors, specifically for combating climate change through 3D printing and advanced manufacturing. Can we be able to find ways to use and completely revolutionize the way that we design these reactors? Because with 3D printing, we can print down to the micron scale. We can control almost every aspect of the reactor, and we can make them in a fraction of the time. We can make it for $10 basically for a reactor that we can print, and we're able to then use it for electrochemical reactions to convert carbon dioxide back into plastics and fuels, convert them back into something sustainable.
So we're closing the energy loop.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, how do we start actually targeting, what are we going to do with all the CO2 emissions that we have? We're putting out 35 gigatons of CO2 per year. And so what are we going to do with that? How are we going to take that CO2, not let it sit in the atmosphere and increase, the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere? But in a lot of ways, that's a huge untapped source of carbon that we could use for making plastics, that we could use for making fuels, that we can use for making chemicals. And for me, that's kind of been the vision that we've been able to start to achieve over the last year or two, is to have, Black and Brown bodies, basically, and Black and Brown brilliant researchers in the lab, able to do the work, able to sit there and publish the papers and to really progress the field of science, and to be able to continue to pursue their own interests and their own efforts. I had 2 students this summer. Both are phenomenal Latinx women, and they are just completely killing it, in the lab, and both of them are interested in going to grad school and are going to be starting and pursuing, their own careers in research. And a lot of it's because we're able to say, hey, I think there's a lot of value here, and I believe and support you, and we're going to create the space, not only just to have you in the lab, but to actually allow you to be able to succeed and to see you thrive. So to me, it becomes holistic. It's all part of the same as looking for these opportunities, wanting to create and to bolster these pipelines. And at the same time, to really show the connection between a lot of DEI efforts and then also the fundamental research, the research that we're doing, and showing the merger of the two.
Thanks for watching part 1 of my episode featuring Dr. Jeremy Feaster. Please like this episode and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for part 2 coming right up. Also, don't forget to check out my art prints at the link in the bio. I'm also selling original pieces that you can check out on my Instagram page for the art prints. If you're interested in buying original pieces, please contact me in the email that's in the episode description. All right, see you in part 2.